fear and greed was the two drivers of me making false decisions, losing money. I was holding too long to losing positions, sometimes without even a stop loss, sometimes even worse, I was re-entering when prices moved against me. So I I learned.
Welcome back to another SFT interview here. Today we have with us Merlin Endler, who actually managed to make $15,000 in payouts with SFT. And today we've got him here with an interview, and we're going to find out how he actually made it to this point as a trader. So Merlin, thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much, and hello to everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share a few things from my past, my story, and my current trading process.
Awesome. So the first question, we'll get straight into it, the obvious one. Why trading? What actually got you into trading in the first place?
Actually, when I finished school with 19, I was, like everyone else, asking myself, what is the future for me? What goals do I have? What goals do I want to reach? And I immediately decided that the normal path, going to school, getting a degree and getting a high-paid job will not be the way I would like to live. So I already started back then. It was 2013, 14. I already started back then my first project. I opened my first company, and I got in 2015 I got introduced to cryptocurrencies. This was a big thing back then. I bought my first bitcoins at around 250, 300 euros. Of course, I did not hold all of them until today. But I got introduced into the crypto space, and I saw the first bull run, or let's say major bull run from 1K approximately to 20K in 2017. So that was kind of the first 5 years of my journey. And why trading? It's very simple. When I was in the crypto space, everything was more a gamble. I was buying and hoping, and I realized markets go up and down, but I was not really having the feeling of I have control over it, or I have a system in place. So one thing led to another, and I made the decision to actually learn the skill to predict precisely when markets go up and down, and everything started there. Yeah.
Awesome. And obviously, so like you said, you've already had the experience with your own business, and then you go into cryptocurrency, which, like you said, is a bit of a gamble for most people, and then you find yourself in trading. How long does that journey start from you being a new trader to you actually kind of making your first money?
Yeah, actually, I mean, from making my first trade to the decision to really make trading a full-time profession was actually quite a long time. Like I said, I bought the first Bitcoins already in early years, but I decided in 2020 to go all in on this. Luckily, I had some savings from previous businesses and years to actually be able to go into the trading space full time. Most people are relying on their job, so they can't do that the same way I did. But when I actually made the decision, it took me 2020, 2021, where I only lost money. I was trying approximately 100 plus different strategies. I was always searching for the best strategy where you never lose and stuff like that. And then the first like 6-figure payouts I was able to acquire in 2022. So it took me, let's say, approximately 2.5 years until I made the first money, the first big money from prop firms.
Awesome. And obviously 2.5 years to some people is a long time, but again, as you'd already spent a long time in business, I imagine it was quite easy for you to keep your head in the game. But in that time, was there any point while you're losing money where you thought, maybe I've made the wrong decision here?
Yeah, of course. I think every trader can relate to this. I have had many ups and downs. I have had many mental struggles on the way, and especially fear and greed was the two drivers of me making false decisions, losing money. I was holding too long to losing positions, sometimes without even a stop loss, sometimes even worse. I was re-entering when prices moved against me. So I actually, yeah, I learned it the hard way. I lost at the beginning, I lost my own money. I did not know about prop firms. I lost some parts of my savings, and I have really had hard times sometimes. Other days were better. Some days went really well. So I already got a feeling how it can be. I had winning streaks as well, which kept me going. But yeah, that was kind of the way.
Yeah, and I think most traders that have actually made it will probably have a similar story about the downs. Like, new traders that come in don't really give enough respect to the fact that you will have to go through that at some point. Was there anything in particular that kind of helped you overcome the mental barriers and actually got you to that point of stable profitability?
Yeah, so I think one really big thing is that most traders judge their trades based on win or loss. And even worse, and I did it myself, they judge their trades based on money they made or money they lost. So what really changed something for me was when I was able to, or when I took a step back and started to judge my trades based on my execution. Means
Mm.
I have a playbook in place which I am following quite strictly nowadays. And this playbook means if I do have a losing trade, I check after, I review it, and I check, have I followed the system? Have I followed my process? And if I did, then a loser becomes, for me, a trade I still like, and a winner is a trade I still like. So this was one thing. And the second thing was to actually journal. I mean, journaling is a big thing in trading, but I was ignoring it. So all new traders really should start with it from the beginning. I always thought, this is something esoteric, nobody needs that. But actually, it is really when you have placed trades and you recap it the day after, or I do it actually at the end of the week, I recap everything. And there you really see the flaws, the faults, the errors, the issues, and everything. And sometimes you have repeating errors, repeating mistakes you do, and
Yeah.
then you can really point on them and optimize it and make the execution process as good as possible.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, this is something that takes a lot of self-awareness, which is why a lot of people don't manage to get to that point where they're able to separate themselves from the trading and understand that they are in control of the situation. And like you said, when you first started trading, you suffered with things like greed and fear of execution and things like this. Was there anything outside of trading that helped you start to cope with this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, like you said, trading is actually a form of managing yourself. So when I started in early years in 2013, 14 with my first businesses, I have had to deal already with this. I had to structure my day by myself. And I think things outside of trading is for me definitely to have hobbies, to do sports. I'm a table tennis player in a competitive league. I also enjoy some different other hobbies, and it really helps me to actually kind of chill out when I'm not at the charts. Also, personal development. I don't want to open this topic now, but it is extremely important to actually not just study the charts, study your playbook, study your execution, all of that. It's actually way beyond that, to work with yourself, to work with your strength, to improve your weaknesses, to be aware of everything. And in the beginning, I read a lot of books. During the years, I switched more to audiobooks and videos. But I also visited some seminars where I was in one week, for example, in a specific place with a mentor. And yeah, I can just tell everyone it's extremely important to build yourself as a person, not just look at yourself as a trader.
And this is something that I also have had to try and explain to my community often. Like, we all understand the elements of trading psychology that will affect your game, but not many people will accept that that goes much deeper than just trading. This is everything that you do in your life. If how you do something is how you do everything. And I know you don't want to dig too deep into all of it, but were there any particular books specifically that you read that kind of helped move you on further than other kind of educational resources?
Yeah, I have one book in mind. It's from Anthony Robbins. I don't know if it's in English like that, but it's the power principle or a power principle, something like that. Powerprinzip in German. And I really, actually, I started to study this book at the early beginning of my career. And I read it a second time after I already achieved some goals. And I even used it a third time, I think 3 or 4 years ago. So over the past 10 years, kind of every 3 years, I read it again. And it is not just where you read and get input, it is also actually with tasks involved, where you actually write down something, you create something on paper, you have more than just getting input. It's a really awesome book for everyone to get into that.
Yeah, and just before we move on from that, is there any key takeaway? Like, what's the biggest lesson that you could share with everyone about that book?
I think we shared it already. You manage yourself. That's kind
Yeah.
of the biggest lesson. But this book has many chapters, and I would say there is at least half of the chapters are golden nuggets. So
Yeah.
yeah, check it out. Yeah,
Awesome. So yeah.
but manage yourself. And in so many different ways, from the way you think, manage your thoughts, manage your emotions, manage your vocabulary, how you speak, and it's so many different parts involved in that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that takes a very specific type of person. You have to be in a right mental headspace to kind of get on with this, and for you it seems to have worked out, and that's great. So like you said, I just want to go back to kind of something you were speaking about at the beginning about all the different strategies that you was trying when you first got into Forex. How did that develop from going from kind of trying everything and anything to moving on to the strategy that you use today?
Yeah, so when I started out, I was actually just looking for indicators and yeah, different combinations of indicators. I thought there must be some different indicators. When I combine them the right way, I will just have a magical entry and it clicks and I will make my money. So of course that did not work. Some indicators like MACD or stochastic RSI and buy oversold and sell overbought and stuff like that. I tried everything in relation to that. And actually, the first time I really had a system which worked was when I actually found a way of using some of these indicators combined with a 2-to-1 risk to reward. So it's not that you can't make money with it at all. So in 2022, I made 6 figures from a strategy which kind of was involving some indicators, some different time frames, and combining all of that to give me an entry and an exit as well. The thing is, with this strategy, I was on a good run and I was making good money, but I think I was around 2 million in funding. But then I had on other areas of life, I had some major crashes or down experiences. So this led to me making false decisions, and I actually came to the point where also the strategy itself went on a losing streak, and I lost my funding again. So I was actually kind of restarting everything in 2023 with a different approach. I mean, of course, smart money concepts, ICT, that almost everyone who is in the space has heard about it. And after I went through this hard time mentally on private stuff, and also after I went on the losing streak on my previous setup, I was actually getting introduced or finding out about the different approach to trading. And everything what I have built up now and what I'm working on is based on the idea of smart money or ICT, however you want to call it. I just basically look for banks or institutions and how they move their prices and where they potentially enter and exit and try to follow these moves. And it completely transformed the way I look into charts and how I trade. Yeah.
Awesome. And is there anything you can go into? I know it's quite hard to explain a strategy in words, but are you able to kind of share how your strategy, your working strategy now kind of plays out?
Yeah. Can I share the screen or?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so this is the 50 minutes time frame on Euro USD. On prop firms, I only trade Euro USD, but I will just use this layout to start off.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is actually the daily time frame on Euro USD, and sorry, I always start off with a daily or even weekly, but let's focus here on a daily. And I use the daily and the 4 hours time frames to get something like a bias on the market to actually find out where we are, what could be next, and something like that. So I like to actually look for let's look at this big down move from in 2023. It was actually the second half of 23. This move actually broke structure here. Then I like to divide this move into two areas. For me, the everything above the 0.5 pip is premium prices, and everything below is discount. But when we have a move that broke structure, I'm looking for sells in the premium prices, just very general. And when the price started to move up again, we had here something like a market shift to the upside, and we had many continuations. I will not get all of them in, but we had many continuations to the upside, here again. So all of these continuations, I also started to look for buys. And for example, here at this area, we are below the 0.5. So here we could have gotten a long entry or long entries. Here it's the same thing. Sorry. Here it's the same thing. We broke the structure again. We are below the 0.5, so I would look for buys here. Then we had the next break and so on. So I was when we started to actually change from a huge down momentum towards the upside, I was looking, generally speaking, I was looking for buys. And after we actually entered the premium area here, I was looking for sells, but I mean, this is a huge area. This is many pips. So how do I actually go more into redefining or actually looking for clearer levels? There is two things I do when we are in this general area here. I look for order blocks and fair value gaps. So very general, we could say this would be an order block. We just tapped in December 28th. Also on the way up, we had fair value gaps. Let me just see, for example, here would be a fair value gap between 19th July to 21. But yeah, when I just look into it, there is more gaps. Yeah, here, for example, as well, between 10th of August to 14th. So there is many, if you look closer into it and you know what order blocks or fair value gaps are, then you can find a few of them here, and you see price reacted here with a move down. And this was actually from one order block over there. So this was a potential short move. And now if we are looking at current market situation, I'm just cleaning up that a little bit. So what we have had now is actually this move, which broke structure here. So based on my overall analysis, I would look for buys in the discounted areas here. And I'm specifically looking at this order block here. Also, we have had a fair value gap in here. And even though if this fair value gap got kind of crushed, you see from this candle, it tapped the top. This candle tapped the middle, and we had already a reaction and a run up into a order block over there. Then we moved down, and all of that is kind of the process I use to define where I want to trade. And when we now move over to the 15 minutes again, let's just go like this maybe. Then I use as an entry technique. Let's say I wanna long. I have something like this where liquidity gets taken, and then we have a market shift. So this would be the market shift. This would be a low which gets taken. I will just do it like I call it a trap. So when this gets taken and we have a retrace of price into an area like again that I use discount and premium. Let's say we have, for example, at 80% we have a fair value gap. Then I would look to enter here and would target at least the prior highs. And yeah, this is kind of the in the lower time frames is the systematic of how I enter. I use the 15 minutes time frame, so I do not scale down into 1 minute or something. I stick with the 15, and yeah, this is kind of in the short direction. It's the same. So when we are in the daily, and I have not gone through the 4 hours. Sometimes I use 1 hour as well. Let's say we have at the higher time frames, we have a level of interest where I really think, okay, this is, for example, this is in the premium area. This is a fair value gap on a daily basis. We have now tapped into the middle of this fair value gap in the premium, and I want to short now. Then I look for the setup I just showed you to enter and to short, for example. I know there is many people who are using high risk to rewards, and the smart money idea can also give you that. But for me, when I tried it, it was just not working for me. So I decided to step back from high risk to rewards and scale down to actually, I just trade 1 to 2s. And I know many of my entries lead to higher potential returns, but I don't use them because when I do 1 to 2, even if I'm sometimes not at the best location on the higher time frames, the market does a small move in the other direction. So even if I'm sometimes wrong on my overall bias, I still might hit a take profit. And it just helps me to be consistent, to stick with my plan, and to not get into unnecessary long losing streaks, or to not get into mental problems, because everyone can stick with a 1 to 2. It's so easy. You just place it, you analyze it, you have your higher time frame level, you enter based on your rules, and then you just hands off and let it run. That's it.
And I think, like, honestly, thank you very much for actually sharing that. Not everyone would like to share their strategy and their secrets, but for me, the biggest thing that I pick up from that, to some people that aren't familiar with smart money concepts and ICT, that might have all looked quite confusing. But in reality, you're working on really, really simple a simple set for your strategy and a simple set of rules for your risk tolerance and things like that. And I think personally that makes the difference for most of the successful traders. They do not overcomplicate things, and it's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, when we speak about ICT, he was actually, or his channel was actually the game changer for me. But I understand people who come to this channel or to similar ideas and get overwhelmed. It was the same for me in the beginning. I remember myself at the beginning of 23 sitting back over there on the sofa with my laptop and starting to look into his playlists on his YouTube channel. And it was, I don't know, I think I studied 2 to 3 hours per day, and I did it for a month or so. So it was like 50 plus hours or 60 plus hours of just content. And after that, my head was just going crazy. I thought, how can people make money with this? It's so complicated, it's so much input. But then I started to, it was the dog. Then I started to actually go down to I thought, what is his ideas and how can I break that down for me into a simple process? And the way or the things I took out from him might not be the same playbook, or it might not be the same thoughts or the same structure, strategy, whatever someone else is taking out, but I can just tell everyone, don't get overwhelmed with the ideas and try to break it down in an as simple process as possible. To analyze a daily chart, for me, it takes I just look into the daily 5 to 10 minutes every day. And I mean, it's not that it's changing a lot, but it's just a few minutes a day to get my mind straight on what levels I am waiting for. And when we approach these levels, my alerts ring and I know already exactly, it's just 3 or 4 simple things, extremely simple things. So to make a conclusion on that, in trading, actually, it's not the complicated stuff, for me at least, which works. It is actually the simple stuff. Going back from complicated to simple, which helped me to achieve good results in the past months.
And I think this will probably be true for most people. Now, I personally can't say that I am a long-term profitable and a consistently profitable trader, but I have made leaps and bounds from kind of going from the same place as you, trying all the different strategies, having a trading plan with rules that totaled about 10-15 different checkboxes that needed to be there, and it just never worked. And I stopped blowing accounts when I stopped taking so many trades, thinking that I could actually judge things, and just went, okay, 1 trade a day, we'll set a simple set of rules, and whatever happens, happens. Following the rules is always the most important thing.
Yeah, and one thing, to be honest, the best periods of trading I had when I not placed a trade every single day, when I actually, maybe I had 2 to 3 trades a week, sometimes maybe even just 1 or 2. So I call it a week if it's, or let's say like this, I don't care at all about my trade frequency in that sense. I only care about the specific level I am looking for on the higher time frames, and then I execute.
And that's the winning system. And yeah, obviously the majority of traders that you probably see as well aren't doing that. Even though we've got all of these interviews with successful traders, we have more and more honest influencers coming in and explaining this is going to be hard and this is how we trade and don't overcomplicate things. What do you think it is that is still causing such a high failure rate in the industry?
Yeah, let me think about this. I mean, what we started off with being self-aware and having, I mean, most of the people out there, generally speaking, they are not self-aware. Most of the people are driven by fear and greed. Most of the people have no goals for their lives. Most of the people have no plan in place. If they have goals, they just talk about it. Oh, one day I want to be, but they have no action plan in place. If people have an action plan in place and have goals, there might be other struggles as well. For example, I'm very transparent about this. I am on a 4 or 5, depending on the account, 4 or 5 trade losing streak speaking with you now. That means in my scenario, I went down 2 or 2.5% because I risked with funded accounts only 0.5, which is not an issue for me in a sense of, oh, I'm afraid of losing accounts. But when I look, I am self-aware. I manage myself. I have a plan in place to reach my goals. I have goals and a plan. So why still people fail? And in this losing streak I am right now, I was asking myself that why is it like that? And then I started to recap different areas. I started to recap, how did I place the last trades? What did I execute correctly? Then I also went one more step back to reflect on, was something with me as a person, as a human, other like areas of life. I looked into that and all of, and if you have everything in place and you still fail, then you need to always go one layer back and look into all different areas. Because if you have problems family-wise, for example, that can actually, without you knowing, it can lead you to rush into a trade, or it can lead for you to make a wrong decision, or to not actually press the trigger for entering, or to not place that limit, or to take the limit away shortly before it gets triggered, seeing the limit hitting take profit. So it's so many different areas and steps and levels we could look, or we should look into.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because trading is such a, in my opinion, is hands down one of the biggest in the industry with the biggest amount of factors that will affect your success rate. And when I first came into it, I've always worked in the industry. I've been more involved in working than actually trading. So I've got to see traders and I've got to see the firms. And for a long time, I thought it was right for traders to blame the firms. I saw everyone blaming them. And it was like, at first it was the time limits, and it made sense. Yeah, there shouldn't be time limits. So I get why they're complaining. But now more and more firms are creating environments that are the best possible conditions for traders, and they are still failing. But do you think there is anything else that firms need to personally do to make it easier for traders to avoid some of the pitfalls?
I mean, both of us know that there is many firms out there having one clear interest, and this is getting the money from people. That's why I really appreciate SFT, also TFT, because I really have the feeling that you guys, it's not that you just give people a good opportunity, it's even more than that. You really create the feeling you actually do more than what you would have to. You get my point. So you already do everything. What else could I ask for? What else should traders ask for? No, it's definitely, I mean, when I would sit down and make some notes or some thoughts what maybe could be improved, maybe I would find something when I think about it long enough. But when you ask me about that, I think your company or the founder trader, those kind of companies, they give a trader everything he needs to succeed. So when you're not succeeding with some of those firms yet, it's no problem. Just ask yourself about your goals, about your strategy, about your plan. But it's not me in this interview telling that you already do that or have done that in so many interviews, so many valuable videos. So everyone just needs to get to work, to get to study, to create a plan and just act on it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you have said that, because at the end of the day, more and more traders need to understand that. I mean, when I came into trading 5 years ago, there probably was prop firms, but I didn't know about them. So there was no funding. Everything was on my personal accounts. There was no one trying to teach Forex apart from these crazy courses that would cost you $10,000 plus. So in my opinion, this is the easiest it has ever been to be a Forex trader. The fact that the pass rates haven't really changed very much since then indicates to me that it's a societal problem not an issue with the firms. But yeah, moving away from that. So right now, if I'm correct, obviously things could have changed since you filled in this form. You've done 15K in payouts with SFT, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I'm currently funded 300K, and I have I have 100K account as well in the challenge, in the evaluation with you guys. And yeah, I did, I think it was 2 payouts. One was, I think, 13 point something, and the other one was 2 point something. And currently, like I said, I am down 2.5%, something like that. But it's actually with a 2-to-1, it's just, yeah, 2 winners more or less away from break even. So I'm really looking into getting many more payouts with you guys. But even the thing is, even if I would lose a funded account again with 0.5% risk per trade, I would just, I would not stop. I mean, it's a very different approach from my side, how I approach evaluation phases, phase 1, phase 2, and how I trade live accounts in terms of risk. I go more the aggressive style on the phase 1 and phase 2. But even if I would lose an account, a live account again, I know I am capable of getting it back very shortly, because it actually, to pass phase 1 and phase 2 when I have 2 wins in a row, it's just 2 trades. That's how I do it. And yeah, it can be more. And when I traded to get funded with the 300K account with you, I was not making it in 2 trades. It took me, I think, 4 or 5, but it's not far away. So that's also the crazy thing. So many people have this opportunity in front of their eyes, and it's so close, but somehow many still don't make it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I don't, like I said, I think it's a societal problem, so I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
No.
But yeah, so it's interesting because you're not the first trader now to explain to me this that actually gets payouts, that their strategy for challenges is completely different from their strategy on a challenge account. And it makes sense to me to be more aggressive. If you can afford to kind of burn through challenges, it makes more sense to get funded and then scale back. But in terms then of payout strategy, do you have, once you're funded, is there a strategy in your head in regards to payouts?
I am following Paladin on Instagram, and he was promoting the 1% profit rule recently on all his channels. Before, I mean, it's not that I invented it or anything, but before that, I already had in my mind 1 to 2% every 2 weeks, and then I go for the payout. So this is so I am not shooting for insanely high returns. I actually, when I have a funded account in place and I got my first withdrawal, I'm just looking for consistency. And if I go into small drawdowns like I am right now, then it's not. I mean, maybe it takes me another 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of February, to be on the payout again. But we're talking weeks, and don't be greedy. Also, in terms of managing your live accounts, don't be greedy. Small percentage, like 1 to 2% every 2 weeks, and then you do this for 1, 2, 3 years. I mean, that's way more than if you risk your daily drawdown in one trade and hope for a 40K payout on a 100K account or something.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to what you said right at the start of this interview, that you had other businesses, you had savings, there is no rush for you. And this is another thing that I would urge kind of all traders to consider. If you don't have alternative sources of income, or you don't have large amounts of savings, I don't think trading is for you yet. I think you need to be in a more mentally stable place when it comes to finances.
Yeah, I agree. And also, when people start, let's say you start off and you want to become a funded trader and your budget is 1K. then you could go with the 1K, you could go for maybe 300,000, maybe even 400,000 with a good promo. But then you have one shot. When you fail this account, your budget is gone and you somehow would have to make it on your job or wherever and restart. So I recommend everyone take your budget and split it up into, let's say, 5 or 10 accounts. Don't go for the 400K, go for the 5K, 10K, 50K, whatever you can afford. Split it so that you have at least 5 to 10 tries, because that takes pressure away from the one specific account. And when you make it, let's say you have 10 accounts and you make it only with one to the payout, and your payout, it depends then of course on the percentage, but let's say you go for one payout with 5%, that already makes your losses back from the other 9. But it's very unrealistic, at least from my approach, to lose 9 out of 10 tries. So I will lose maybe 4, maybe 3, maybe 5 out of 10 when I go aggressive. When I go conservative, I will maybe lose 1 out of 10. So that's really something everyone should consider. Better taking many accounts, smaller ones, and level yourself up than putting all money into one and hoping for the big money.
And this is all ties into the same thing. It's about the idea of longevity. It's about the idea of being conscious about yourself, the actual situation, your goals, your ambitions. Without all of those things that you've spoken about, this decision that for you is quite simple isn't simple for everyone else, because there's too much going on in your head.
I mean, you said it before, nowadays it's actually the easiest to become a Forex trader, but I think because of all that info out there and all this different medias and inputs, it can also be very hard. So break everything down as simple as possible and never let greed overtake your decisions, and also never let fear. I mean, so many people maybe do not start because they are too afraid of losing an account. It's either they start and want to make the big shot, or they do not start because they are afraid of losing. So both things you can easily eliminate when you have many accounts in the back, to be able to lose 1 or 2 or 3, and to not be greedy when you also use many accounts.
Well, listen, in my opinion, this has been one of the best conversations that I've had with a trader, the best all-encompassing conversations. There's so many different topics that you've touched on and gone into quite a lot of detail about. If you've got it in you, as we kind of look to close this out, what is, if you was to advise traders to only make one positive move in a direction that would help them improve their trading, what would your one piece of advice be?
The one piece of advice would be the journaling thing, because this helps you as a person and it helps you as a trader to become aware of the things really going on. And I have created a specific way of journaling. I do it in a 2 setup approach. I have one layout on TradingView I call the journal layout, and I actually journal my trades in TradingView after I took them on the other layout where I actually placed the trade. So there I can reflect on the chart itself, and parallel to that I have a note app, like a Android simple note app, and I have created a specific scheme or formula of different points, which starts from mental state to higher time frames to higher time frame premium fair value gap order block. So my setup on a higher time frames, scaling down to the lower time frames with a few points, and closing out with notes on the trade and learnings on the trade. Sometimes I have no learnings because everything went to plan into the stop loss, or everything went to plan into the take profit. But sometimes I have learnings and sometimes I have notes, and this style I already do I think, yeah, 7, 8 months. And this is my one piece of advice: create a way for you to journal your trades and optimize that on a day-to-day basis, because this will really make you aware of the problems, why some people are not profitable at this point.
Awesome. And yeah, I think not enough people, I think everyone knows that you have to journal, but not enough people talk in depth enough about how important it is and the actual ways to journal. Obviously, when people say you need to journal your trades, a lot of people just put in the most basic information and expect a lot to come from it.
That would be a good topic for a video, a specific video on 3 different ways to journal your trading.
That would be, and we'll see which one of us gets there first. But yeah, thank you very much, Merlin, for coming on with us today. This has been one of the most insightful conversations I have personally had. So thank you very much for that.
Appreciate
before we close it out, is there anything else that I may have missed that you think is important, or do you think we've covered it?
I think we've covered it, and just want to say once again, here my camera is there, I want to say thank you once again to SFT as a company. I really appreciate your guys' work, and I hope that over the next years there will be, they will just move on like they do and create an empire, an even bigger one than they have already.
Awesome, and I'm sure they're going to appreciate your words very, very much. Well, thank you very much once again for coming on today, and I wish you all the best of luck for 2024.
Appreciate it. I wish you the same. Have a nice day.
You too.